What's up, everybody? Welcome to Story Time with Writer's Playground. My name is Merrick Humbert.
And I am Mariana Davila.
And we are your hosts. Thanks so much for joining us. We have a wonderful story that we are going to be sharing with you today. But first, what's been going on since our last episode, Mariana?
Well, I am excited to say that we completely wrap up our 12 Playground Challenge. So all of the winning stories are up on our website and available for you to read. So go check those out if you haven't already.
Yeah, there's some really great work up there. We had a lot of fun, and we are excited to share these stories. So go read them and follow and support your fellow writers.
Yep. And we can't wait for our next competition. We should be announcing the dates and opening registration within the next few days. So look out for that. It is looking like it is going to actually take place mid-July, and we will let you know soon.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. In the meantime, it's been nice to slow down a little bit from the pressure and the stress that comes at the end of these competitions. Our work schedule is not quite as intense for the moment, although there are some fun things that we are working on. But we also just have a moment to breathe, to relax, and indulge in some entertainment. So we started watching Widow's Bay, which is a fun new show on Apple TV.
Oh yeah, I'm actually really liking it. It is like a supernatural dark comedy show. And so far there's only 5 episodes, but I think it is very original and intriguing. What I like the most about it is the way it mixes horror with black humor. I am no expert in the genre and don't watch as many shows as I would like to because of my toddler, but I don't think it's a very common combination. Another plus is Matthew Rhys, which I think he's a great actor, and I am definitely curious to see what happens next.
Yeah, it's a really suspenseful show and it keeps you on edge, so it's been fun so far. The other night I also watched a movie called Is This Thing On?, which just came to Disney Plus, and I thought it was great. I was just telling you about this.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, it's directed by Bradley Cooper, who I think has done some terrific work, and it stars Will Arnett and Laura Dern, and it begins with them getting what I would describe as a pretty amicable, although of course painful and difficult, separation with the intention of divorce. And we see them navigate that throughout the course of the film, having 2 young boys, trying to figure out who they are as individuals, and what went wrong with their marriage, and what they want for themselves moving forward. And I think it's a great portrayal of the struggle of life, the human condition, trying to find happiness in life, trying to make relationships work over decades. You know, it's tough. Life's tough. And I just thought it was a really compelling drama. It feels real and authentic, and I really enjoyed it. I definitely would recommend. It's called Is This Thing On? What else?
Should we get into our story for today?
Let's do it.
Great! Today we will be reading Have You Seen Me by Sarah Newman, which won 2nd place out of 639 entries in our 12 Playground Challenge. Yeah, that's the competition we just finished up. And the tagline for the story is: between a foul swimming pool, a school bus fight, and a half-packed runway bag, a girl comes face to face with anger, loyalty, and the quiet ways love shows up. It is a really endearing story.
For sure. And Sarah Newman is a talented writer who lives in Richmond, Virginia, where she splits her time working for the local children's museum, battling neighborhood groundhogs who won't stop terrorizing her vegetable garden, and playing beer-fueled, fast-pitch baseball with a bunch of lovable punks. She lives in a home overfilled with books and her fellow bookworm husband, who is very, very handsome. She was paid by him to add that. And her ball-obsessed pit bull. A lover of stories and writing bad poetry in the Notes app in her phone, Sarah looks forward to continuing to try and find the right words to describe this weird, wild, ephemeral existence. That is, until the groundhogs get her. So now let's enjoy her wonderful story. Have You Seen Me? Here we go.
Have You Seen Me by Sarah Newman. The hierarchy of bird order becomes all too real when there's a turd at the bottom of the swimming pool and only one shower at home. I'm coming to terms with this as I sit on a plastic chair outside of Dad's front door. The third water has mostly dried from my bathing suit by the time Greg opens the door with a teasing smile curling at one side of his mouth. Your turn, he says. There's no hot water left. I'll wait then, I reply. Greg's face flashes disappointment before he slams the door, realizing he couldn't get a rise out of me. He's successful most of the time, but today the summer air is like a weighted blanket and the cicadas have started to call out to each other, desperately searching for fleeting companionship. I wonder what they're saying to each other. My brothers and I were swimming in the neighborhood pool for over an hour before we saw it. Matt was throwing dive rings from the lost and found, while Greg and I competed against each other to grab as many as possible in one breath. As I reached for a pink ring, I noticed what looked like a Snickers bar. What's that? I asked when the round was over and Greg and I were waiting in the deep end. Greg dove down to look. Looks like a Snickers bar, he said as he surfaced. We all got out and asked Dad to try and scoop the candy bar out with the cleaning pole hanging on the fence. As usual, we were the only ones there. It didn't seem like any other kids lived in our apartment complex. Only adults that like to squint in the sun and chain smoke cigarettes while sitting outside their front doors. I don't think that's a candy bar, y'all, Dad said, carefully maneuvering the cylindrical object into the net. He pulled it up and emptied the net on the concrete with a wet slap. Turd! Matt screamed. Yep, said Dad. No way! Greg yelped, backing away and knocking into a lounge chair. Wasn't me, I shrugged. I'm replaying the chaotic scene that followed. More screaming from Greg, Matt doubled over with laughter, Dad grumbling as he snatched up all our belongings. When Dad popped his head out. Hey, hon, sorry for the wait. The water should be warm now. Dad's duplex is always dark. He hates overhead lights and insists on dim lamps instead, illuminating the colorless interior walls and his vast collection of DVDs. He keeps the big front window thickly draped so our next-door neighbor, Mrs. Hart, doesn't pop by for visits as much. The apartment is split by a large living room that leads directly into a small open kitchen and an adjacent four-person dining table. To the right is Dad's room with the full bath. To the left is the bedroom I share with my brothers. We have a half bath too, but I use Dad's to get ready for school and for all non-emergency bathroom breaks. It's not nearly as gross. I make my way over to Dad's bedroom, passing Matt and Greg sitting on the couch already playing a video game. Geez, you stink, Greg prods. I guess you're not in a hurry since it was your turn in the pool. Way to go, Kate. Thanks for ruining the day, yet again, Matt adds without looking away from the screen. What are you talking about? Of course it wasn't mine. I'm not a toddler, I respond. Well, it wasn't there when we got there, so it must have been you, Matt says. A zombie head explodes on the screen as Matt hits it with a sledgehammer. How do I know that it wasn't either of you? I'm sure it wasn't me, so that only leaves two possibilities. Well, unless Dad... Leave me out of it, Dad calls out from the kitchen. As the youngest, you're the person closest to the period in your life when you were using diapers, so it just makes sense, Greg says with finality before reaching for the controller. Come on, Matt, it's my turn. I close the bedroom door to the sounds of the boys wrestling over the controller and Dad's exasperated voice threatening to throw the whole console away if they don't stop. Under the crash of the tepid water, I close my eyes tight, clench my jaw, and try not to think too hard about how long we were swimming with the mystery turd. It's going to be a while before I can eat another Snickers bar. It's the first week of the 6th grade when I get into my first and only school bus fight. My friend Devin and I are taking turns doodling on the back of each other's hands when Jamie Kirchhoff leans over the back of our seat. Jamie has shiny hair and a brand new set of colored gel pens, which she made a big show of during history class. We used to be friends before Mom left. Nice stats, Reminds of the ones on your mom's knuckles. Didn't they say something like, white trash? Shut up, Jamie, Devin says, pausing her doodle. Wait, no, that's not it. It was shitty mom. And that's when I punch her in the face. Jamie's expression changes from taunting to shocked to pain in a matter of milliseconds. But the second stretches out to an eternity as I realize what I had done. What the hell? She squeals, clutching her nose and falling back into her seat. That was awesome, Devin says with a smile so wide I can see the rubber bands at the back of her braces. Luckily, Jamie's stop is next and she snatches her bag and runs off the bus crying without looking at me. By the time the bus makes it to my apartment complex, my heart is still pounding. Mrs. Kirchhoff's massive white SUV is there, waiting. Greg gets off the bus, but I can't move. As the bus driver, Mr. Weeks, asks if everything is okay, Miss Kirchhoff darts onto the bus, an arrow aimed straight for me. I'm frozen, my hands gripped around the straps of my backpack when she reaches me. You're coming with me, she says, icy hands around my arm. I wonder how her hands could be so cold on such a hot day as she drags me down the aisle and out the bus door. You can't do that, Mr. Weeks calls out after us. When we make it to her car, Greg is lingering by the entrance to our complex. Mrs. Kirchhoff throws the back door open where Jamie is sitting, still crying, with a clump of tissues under her nose. You need to apologize to my daughter now or I'll have you expelled. Mrs. Kirchhoff's face is so close to mine I can feel her angry breath and see the yellow circles in her eyes. They remind me of a snake's. She was bullying me, I say, my breath caught in my throat. She was making fun of my mom. I'm sure whatever she said about your mom was true. What kind of mother abandons her family? You want to defend someone like that? The snake bites. My face feels hot and I blink away tears as Mrs. Kirchhoff slams the back door and heads for the driver's side. Greg is still lingering, so she yells to him, Tell your dad to expect a call from me about this. Then she's gone. You're standing in the street, Kate. Greg is beside me now. It's hot as hell out here. Let's go home. Back in the apartment, Matt is already home killing zombies on the TV screen. He's in charge while Dad's at work and is supposed to make sure Greg and I do our homework. Usually, though, we watch TV or I watch the boys play a video game. Kate punched Jamie Kirchhoff in the face, Greg says as his backpack slides from his shoulder with a thud onto the floor. Matt pauses the game. Hell yeah, sis! The Kirchhoffs are jerk-offs. Matt's approval should make me feel better, but instead, I'm terrified of getting in trouble. Despite being the family's scapegoat, I never really do anything bad. I don't cost nearly as much as the boys. I do my homework, just not right when I got home. I only eat from Dad's not-so-secret candy stash once, maybe twice a week. I don't punch people in the face. At least, not until today. You have to help me delete the message after Mrs. Kirchhoff calls, I beg. I don't know how to do it myself. Matt and Greg look at each other before cracking into joint laughter. Kate, you never get in trouble. Like, ever, Matt says, turning back to his game. Sorry, but I gotta see how this goes. Dad's apartment feels even darker than usual now. I could unplug the answering machine, but I know the boys would snitch on me anyway. There's no way out. Getting in trouble isn't the only thing I'm afraid of. I also can't stand the idea of Dad being disappointed in me. I need to be good so he won't leave, too. I'm still standing by the door when an idea strikes me at the top of the head down to my toes, leaving my whole body tingling. I don't have to worry about anyone leaving if I leave first. While the boys bicker over their game, I grab a bag from the closet and stuff it with clothes. My toothbrush, my butterfly wristwatch, my favorite stuffed animal, a white tiger that I got with Dad at a Siegfried and Roy rip-off show at the local zoo, and the savings I had in my winter boots. I have $26, which doesn't seem like it will get me far, but it's better than the alternative of staying here. In the kitchen, I grab what I can find. A can of condensed milk, a roll of crackers, and an apple. I sneak into Dad's candy stash and grab his last mini pack of M&Ms. I hope he'll understand. Where are you going? Greg asks as I reach the door. Nowhere, I said, stepping out into the blazing August sun. I start walking. I pass Mrs. Hart's front door and head down the street towards the complex entrance. It's 4 p.m., so most of the neighbors from the other duplexes aren't home yet. Our neighborhood is among a giant wave of other neighborhoods, so I have a long way to go before I get to the main road leading out of town. The sun is brutal this time of year, and I wish I thought to bring some water, but if I turn back now, I'll never leave. So I keep walking and try to stick to the shady side of the street. I can't stop thinking about how good it felt punching Jamie. I should feel guilty, but punching her was like a release of all the pent-up anger and sadness and confusion that's been building up inside me like a tidal wave. After Mom left, without a word to me or the boys, all of my feelings haven't had a place to go. They just collect momentum, hurtling towards the wall of my brain, my heart. The punch gave it all somewhere to go, unfortunately for Jamie's nose. I think about whether my brothers will even notice I'm gone. They might, since they'll no longer have someone to blame things on. But more likely, they'll be glad that they don't have to compete so much for space or leftovers or Dad's attention. Dad will have the bathroom to himself now. Not that he's ever made me feel like it's a burden to share. I think about that and how he's always making sure our plates are filled before he is, giving us free reign of the TV remote before bedtime, letting us dictate every moment of his free time when he's not at work, helping with long division, saying I love you to each of us every moment he gets, keeping his candy stash supply because he knows we steal from it, never leaving without letting us know where he's going and when he'll be back. The sun has sunk low into the sky by the time I reach the bus stop for the line I know heads north somewhere. There are posters stuck all over the shelter with ads for music lessons, lawn mowing services, and yoga classes. Between a poster for an upcoming farmer's market and a notice about a change in the bus schedule, I see an image of my face. I'm eye to eye with what looks like a painted illustration of a girl with my same features. Red hair, pale green eyes, freckles dotted on her nose above a small, pointed chin. Have you seen me? The poster is so sun-faded that I can't make out most of the words aside from the question at the top and a few of the details about the girl, Claire Hicks, who went missing in 1995. It's an artistic rendering of what Claire would have looked like if she made it to my age. She would have looked exactly like me. I understand the pain of not knowing, the mystery of other people's choices. I think about that again and turn around. I haven't made it far from the bus stop when I hear a horn honking and see headlights flashing ahead. It's my dad's old blue Buick, and he and my brothers are leaning out of the window yelling my name. It's Kate! There's Kate! Kate! Dad does a movie-like U-turn in the middle of the street to pull up next to me, and they all spill out of the car surrounding me in a frenzy of hugs. Where were you even going to go, you idiot? Matt says, squeezing my head to his chest. Who would I make fun of if you left? Greg says, wrapping his arms around me and Matt. Don't ever do that again, Dad says, gently, engulfing us in a tight embrace. We're at the pool again. After the whole Jamie, Kirchhoff, and running away incident, Dad grounded me for the rest of the month, but that doesn't mean much when the people I hang out with the most happen to share the same space as me. I heard Dad on the phone with Mrs. Kirchhoff later that night, telling her in no uncertain terms to never lay a finger on me again or he's going to sign me up for boxing lessons. Matt and Gret let me play their zombie game that night too. I wasn't very good, but they let me keep trying until it was time for bed. In the golden light of the late summer sun, Matt throws the diving rings and it's my turn to retrieve them. I'm reaching for the pink one when I notice what looks like a Snickers bar. At least, that's what I tell Greg.
That was Have You Seen Me by Sarah Newman. And just what a joy to read that story is.
I love it.
Me too. Sarah does a great job combining some fun humor with some real heart and sentiment. She really makes us connect and feel for this character, and then the story just leaves you with a smile on your face at the end.
For sure. I love the way she portrays the rapport between these family members. Kate, her two brothers, and her father. The sibling dynamic really feels authentic, and her father comes across as just a great dad. The love between them all is apparent, and it makes for a charming family.
Yeah, it grabbed me from the opening line, which I loved, which was the hierarchy of birth order becomes all too real when there's a turd at the bottom of the swimming pool and only one shower at home. That immediately made me laugh, which is just a great way to open a story. And it's an interesting sentence, thinking about hierarchy of birth order in this specific situation.
Yeah, I also thought it was hilarious. And also, that opening scene serves as a great introduction to the characters in this family.
Yeah, there are so many great details throughout the story that add to that, from how their father doesn't like overhead lights, how he likes to keep the shades closed so the neighbor doesn't bother him, how he has a DVD collection, how he keeps the candy stash, which they steal from. All of these details are specific and really tell us something about who this character is, about his idiosyncrasies, and that specificity is what really brings the character to life and makes him feel real, like a specific, unique, as opposed to generic character.
Yeah, one of the criticisms that we often give in our competitions is that sometimes writers are not specific enough, giving the reader specific details that tell us something about the intricacies of who the characters really are, really bringing them to life and not making them feel like generic archetypes. Don't tell us that a character is antisocial or that he hates the neighbor. Tell us that he keeps the big front window thickly draped so our next door neighbor, Mrs. Hart, doesn't pop by for visits as much. I think that is a good example of how to be specific.
Yeah. And like I said, there are just so many great details in this piece, and they come up naturally within the flow of the story. From the zombie games her brothers play with their heads exploding, to the rubber bands on Devin's braces, to how her favorite stuffed animal is a white tiger that she got with her dad at a Siegfried and Roy ripoff show at a local zoo. These are all just great examples of how to give specific details, short lines that all together really help paint a picture of the intricacies of who this unique character is. And again, a key point is that it all comes up naturally within the flow of the narrative. You know, it's not just summed up for us in like a character overview.
She did a great job, and as far as the plot itself, it is a compelling scene when we see her punch Jamie in the face and how scared she gets afterwards once she realizes what she has done. And we see her afraid of her father's reaction, of her father's disappointment, these all within the background of her mother leaving them, no?
Yeah, and I think the most powerful line of the story for me, which I just really loved, is when she thinks, I need to be good so he won't leave too.
Totally.
That is just so heart-wrenching because in just that short line, it tells us so much about how her mother leaving her has impacted her. And that's just another great example of how to say a lot indirectly in only a few words.
And that is really what the conflict of the story is. Kate still struggling with her mother's abandonment. One of my favorite lines of the story was, I understand the pain of not knowing, the mystery of other people's choices.
Oh yeah, that's another great one. And I love the way she actually begins to articulate her feelings and the struggle that she has been going through as we see her making her way to the bus stop. Talking about how she had this pent-up anger that had just been building, unfortunately for Jamie's nose.
It is such a beautiful moment when her father and brothers come to get her by the bus stop, honking and telling her that they love her.
Oh yeah, that gets me choked up a bit as well. I also love the passage when she is talking about her father and how we see how he has been such a great dad, how he never made her feel like she was a burden, how we get the details about all he does for them, how we read that he never leaves without letting us know where he's going and when he'll be back, and how important that is for them considering that their mother left without a word.
And the final scene is just a lovely way to close it all out. It is also beautiful to read. After the whole Jamie Kirchhoff and running away incident, That grounded me for the rest of the month, but that doesn't mean much when the people I hang out with the most happen to share the same space as me. It is a terrific story all around.
Yeah, I loved it as well. Kirk-offs or jerk-offs.
That was one of my favorite lines.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is it for this week. Again, that was Have You Seen Me by Sarah Newman. And the prompts that she chose were a scapegoat for the character, as Kate specifically mentions feeling like the scapegoat of the family. She chose the duplex for the setting, and the one thing that everyone had to include was a painting that had a striking resemblance to the protagonist.
Thanks so much for joining us, everyone, for another episode of Storytime with Writer's Playground. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe. All of that stuff will be helpful, and we really appreciate it. We'll be back for our next episode in 2 weeks, and I think that we will be having a bonus episode coming for you soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.